The Atlanta Hawks, 36 and 46, 10th seed in the East, lost in the first round of the play-in tournament to the Chicago Bulls. And after the season, DeJounte Murray was traded. That DeJounte Murray Trae Young experiment has over. In their 2 seasons together, the Hawks were actually outscored by let me have the number here, 2.5 points per 100 possessions with the two of them on the floor. And that number was actually 6.5 points outscored per 100 last season, and they were actually better when only one of them on the floor, zero point 0.5 points per 100. I should also mention that the Hawks, curiously enough, they were 14 and 14 without Trae Young last season. Just like Dejounte Murray did have success when it was just him, but now he's gone to New Orleans, and in return they received Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance, two players who I actually think are pretty solid. Like Dyson Daniels, he was a rookie, or he's a second year player now. Good defensive player, did play decent in the Olympics. Hopefully, that Olympic experience can help him become a better player, and he's a terrific fit next to Trae Young. Assuming Trae Young does not get traded, I'm actually of the mind that it would be good to trade Trae Young, but it's very difficult to trade him. Yes, he is a great offensive player, and actually, he was a little bit better defensively last season. I still think he's never going to be a good defender, but he did compete on that end, and he got some steals, live ball steals, but he's very limited in that regard, and he's he a great passer, elite passer, but he's very dominant, ball dominant, and that's kind of awkward to try and win with in the highest levels of NBA playoffs. So if you can trade him, great. If not, and you're stuck with him, well, Dyson Daniels is a terrific fit next to him. And then Larry Nance, who's a terrific, just all around player, certainly a great fit in Atlanta. Like, those are good pieces. If Atlanta wants to compete, and I certainly think trying to compete for the playoffs is the move, because their pick is actually unprotected and owed to the Spurs, so tanking not really an option. But there are going to be sort of things that need to be figured out. First of all, Quinn Snyder, 47 and 57 in his year and a half with the Hawks. Is he on the hot seat? That's something to sort of watch going into the season. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fired by December if, the Hawks are just not winning. You've got Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu center battle. I don't know what goes on there because Capella is 30. Meanwhile, Onyeka Okongwu would be nice if he started, but he's only 6'8". He did shoot. He did shoot threes last season and made a third of his threes, which is a good sign. And he does have potential as an offensive hub and some defensive things. But again, the 6'8" thing is a little concerning. There's also a lot of things that are sort of unusual from last season in stats, if you will. I'm just going to read off a bunch because I think that'll be easier. So I already mentioned the on-off numbers with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. But the Hawks, not a good defensive team, no shocker. They're 28th in opponents' field goal percentage and three-point percentage. But they were actually 8th in forcing turnovers. They were 5th in offensive rebounding percentage. And even though, Trae Young likes to hold the ball, and they were, 19th in fast break points, they were actually 6th in pace. So I don't know how those two numbers work out. Side note, on the defensive end, they were 28th in fast break points allowed. So again, defense is a question mark. Hopefully Dyson Daniels, like DeJounte Murray wasn't a bad defender, but he's undersized. So Dyson Daniels, who is I think 6'8", certainly could be great next to Trae Young and doesn't need the ball in his hands. So that means more touches for Trae Young, but that also means more touches for Jalen Johnson, who did miss a lot of games. He only played 56 last season, but he did improve in all the basic counting stats. He went from 28.8% on threes to, I have it here, 35.5%, and he's 22 years old, so that's pretty good. You now have Zachary Rissache, who was the number one overall pick for Atlanta. Atlanta somehow winning the draft lottery with small odds. I'm not convinced that he's ever going to be some superstar. Might not even ever be an all-star, especially since last year's draft was considered this weak draft. But, if you can develop him into a piece, maybe you can try and make one run at it in the next couple of years with Young, with Jalen Johnson, with other pieces like Onyeka Okongwu, maybe one more center. I think one more center will be good in Atlanta. Um, and then you have to see if you can develop DeAndre Hunter. Now, DeAndre Hunter is sort of an interesting case because, he did shoot a career high. It's 38.5% from three, but the dude never stays healthy. He missed 69 games the last 3 seasons, and the season before that, which was a COVID-shortened season, he missed another 49, which basically means he's missed 118 over 4 seasons. That's a lot of games for a guy who is looking for a pay grade upgrade and just when he got his contract has not been a good like fit as far as his offensive skills. So hopefully the 3-point percentage trend goes upward. His defense is okay, but again, the health thing. Like if he stays healthy, he can be a great contributor, but you got to figure out, what you're doing with DeAndre Hunter. I think trading him might make sense at this point and continue to either figure out if you can trade Trae Young and get Jalen Johnson to be the sort of focal point of Sachet, or try and build around Trae Young with the Dyson Daniels, with the Larry Nance type trades and go from there. If I'm the Hawks, I definitely think, playoffs is a little bit of a stretch. I think play-in is a more likely scenario, that's sort of 9 to 10 seed, maybe the 8 seed. But if you're the Hawks, again, you can't tank unless you're going to try and get your pick back from the Spurs. So try and compete, try and make some trades during the season. I believe the Hawks are right under the first apron. They're about 2 million below. And then this upcoming offseason, you've got questions with Jalen Johnson, with his contract. You've got Clint Capella and Larry Nance being expirings. So I'm just sort of looking to see if I missed any others. No, that's it. Those are sort of the questions. Figure out who you've got. I know it's kind of a generic thing to say, but figure out who you've got. Figure out if you can trade Trae Young. Try and compete this year. And if you can't, then try and rebuild next year and hopefully get off Trae Young somehow.